anatomy of the bladder and urethra. So bladder and urethra considered as a single unit. The main functions of these are storage of urine and voiding of urine. In the bladder, there is a muscle called detrusor muscle. It consists of three ill-defined layers. Outer one is the longitudinal, which will course downwards from the fundus of the bladder to the bladder neck. Second one is the middle circular, which is more prominent in the lower part of the bladder. Then inner longitudinal one, which courses downwards from fundus and continues in the form of spiral fashion up to the mid urethra. And at the level of bladder trigone, smooth muscle is there which has two layers. Deeper muscle layer is like the detrusor and superficial is very thin. And at the bladder neck, the muscle bundles are oblique or longitudinal and has no sphincteric action. Urethra is anatomically divided into three parts: proximal urethra, mid urethra, and the distal urethra. Proximal urethra is the weakest part, and the inner longitudinal muscle of detrusor fades into this part of urethra. And the proximal urethra cannot withstand the rise of intravesical or the intra-abdominal pressure. Mid urethra is the strongest part, and it provides the additional support by the intrinsic striated muscle called the rhabdosphincter urethrae. It surrounds the whole urethra and composed of skeletal muscle, and in the upper part it is further enforced by the levator ani muscles, which is separated from the rhabdosphincter urethrae by a connective tissue septum. The intrinsic striated muscle is responsible for urethral closure at rest. When the patient is not voiding and the urethra is closed, so this muscle is responsible for urethral closure at rest. And distal urethra is a passive conduit, and it is surrounded by the collagen tissue. Entire urethra is rich in elastic and collagen fibers. Pubourethral ligaments and the condensed endopelvic fascia. They contain smooth muscle fibers and they work together to prevent hypermobility of the bladder, neck, and urethra. So there should not be any hypermobility of the bladder, neck, and urethra. Otherwise, patient will have stress incontinence. Now, the submucosal layer of urethra, it also takes part when in the urethral closure at rest and the voiding of urine. In the submucosal layer is the vascular layer which helps in urethral compression. In this, there is venous plexus which gives a cavernous appearance, and it helps in maintenance of resting urethral pressure. At the period of rest, the intraurethral pressure is always higher than the intravesical pressure. Now, after anatomy, the physiology of micturition, storage of urine and the voiding of urine. In the storage phase, urine from the ureteric openings are entering into the bladder, and the bladder fills at the rate of 0.5 to 5 ml per minute. Intravesical pressure, even when the bladder is filling, it remains 10 centimeter of water even with volume of 500 ml. And intravesical pressure is kept lower than the intraurethral pressure by coordinated relaxation of the detrusor muscle. And this is possible by proximal urethral muscle acting like a sphincter by maintaining a tonic contraction. And the stretching of detrusor contracts the sphincteric muscles of the bladder neck. And there is inhibition of cholinergic system, which is responsible for detrusor contraction. And while the sympathetic nerve fibers, they are responsible for the relaxation of detrusor. When there is stimulation of beta adrenergic fibers, there is relaxation of detrusor. And when there is stimulation of alpha adrenergic fibers, there is contraction of the smooth muscles around the bladder neck, which remains closed at the level of bladder neck, and this acts as an internal sphincter. The extrinsic mechanism, which is voluntary, it consists of periurethral muscle fibers, and the other component is derived from the levator ani. So during the voiding phase, volume of the bladder when reaches 250 ml, there is sensation of bladder filling. So the woman will have the desire to void by stimulation of the stretch receptors in the bladder wall, not due to the stretching of the bladder wall, but due to the presence of stretch receptors in the bladder wall, and the sensation passes up the spinal roots, that is the parasympathetic S2, S3, S4. And in untrained bladder, like in children, reflex spinal arc sets in, and it does not goes to the brain and contracts the detrusor. But in the trained adults, urges suppress till the time and place is convenient, and this reflex spinal arc is under the control of hypothalamus and the higher area of brain, that is mainly the pontine center. So detrusor contracts to raise the intravesical pressure to 30 to 50 centimeter of water, and by voluntary contraction of the abdominal muscles, the pressure can rise up to 100 centimeter of water. So what events takes place in the process of maturation? Diaphragm is fixed, and when during the time of voiding, when the abdominal muscles are contracted, pelvic floor is relaxed, and there is drop in intraurethral pressure due to skeletal muscle relaxation and the sympathetic blockade, and the bladder base descends down, and there is obliteration of the posterior urethrovesical angle. Normal posterior urethrovesical angle is 100 degree, and when the bladder base descends, it becomes around 180 degree, and then the detrusor muscle contracts, and there is funneling of the bladder neck and the upper urethra, and urine leaks into the upper urethra. External urethral sphincter opens voluntarily, and there is also rise in intravesical pressure. So the patient will void, and at the end of maturation, the proximal urethra contracts from the distal end to the urethrovesical junction. And then the anatomy of the base, bladder base, and the posterior urethrovesical angle is restored, and the external sphincter closes. Now the mechanism of urinary continence. Why there is normally no urinary incontinence? How the continence is maintained? Normally, intraurethral pressure at rest and with stress is much higher, 20 to 50 centimeter of water, than the intravesical pressure, which remains around 10 centimeter of water. Intraurethral pressure at rest is maintained by the apposition of the longitudinal mucosal folds, submucosal vascular plexus, abundant deposition of collagen and elastic tissues throughout the circumference of the urethra, tonic contraction of smooth muscles in proximal urethra and bladder neck, rhabdosphincter in the mid-urethra and levator ani muscles. Approximately one-third of the resting intraurethral pressure is due to rhabdosphincter effects, one-third to smooth muscle effects, and one-third to its vascular plexus. During stress with rise of intra-abdominal pressure, the escape of urine, normally there is no escape of urine whenever there is stress. With rise of intra-abdominal pressure, the escape of urine is prevented by centripetal force of intra-abdominal pressure, which is transmitted to proximal urethra, which occurs as long as the bladder neck remains above the pelvic diaphragm. There is reflex contraction of the urethral striated sphincter and periurethral striated musculature during stress. Kinking of the urethra is there due to the hammock-like attachment of pubocervical fascia with urethra, vagina, and laterally to the arcus tendinous fascia, giving stability to the urethra. During rise in intra-abdominal pressure, urethra is compressed against the anterior vaginal wall and the bladder base moves downwards and backwards. Bladder neck is pulled upwards and forwards behind the pubic symphysis. So I have already told the basically the micturition involves storage and widening phase. In normal micturition cycle, as I have told you, that parasympathetic is responsible for the detrusor contraction while the sympathetic nervous system, that is hypogastric and pudendal, is voluntary. This causes the sphincter contraction or the relaxation of the detrusor muscle. Whenever the bladder is being filled, this intra-urethral pressure is increased and the sphincters are contracted while the detrusor muscle is relaxed. When there is first sensation to void at around 250 ml of urine, the detrusor is still relaxed and the sphincter is contracted. When there is normal desire to void with more amount of urine filling the bladder, then the detrusor contracts and the sphincter relaxes. That is the voiding phase. And then again, when the bladder is filling, detrusor is relaxed and the sphincter contracted. So the peripheral nervous system consists of autonomic nervous system, somatic nervous system. Autonomic nervous system involves smooth muscle and somatic nervous system involves striated muscle. In this there is sympathetic division and parasympathetic division. Parasympathetic fibers will act on muscarinic receptors and the nicotinic receptors, while sympathetic will act on alpha adrenergic and beta adrenergic. Alpha adrenergic receptors mainly are present in the urethra and the around the bladder neck. So whenever there is sympathetic system is in action, so there is a contraction, sphincteric action is there because the sphincter is contracted, and beta adrenergic receptors are present in the bladder. So when during the time of filling of bladder filling, the sympathetic nervous system is active. And parasympathetic system is responsible for detrusor contraction and the voiding of urine. So it has been shown the parasympathetic nervous system comes from S2, S3, S4, while the sympathetic from T10 to L2. And somatic control, which is innervated by the pudendal nerve, this will act on the external urethral sphincter, and that is voluntarily. So this has been shown the nervous system, which I have already told you. So it has been shown where the alpha receptors mainly present in the urethra. So parasympathetic has stimulation effect on the detrusor. Sympathetic has a negative effect, that is, it will cause the relaxation of the detrusor muscle. So the internal urethral sphincter is made up of involuntary muscle which surrounds the bladder neck and the proximal urethra. And the voluntary mid-urethra portion has external urethral sphincter consisting of sphincter urethrae, ureterovaginal sphincter, and the compressor urethrae. Now it has been shown normally the posterior uretrovesical angle is around 90 to 100 degree. Now how the urethra remains closed at rest, why the urethral pressure is increased. The urethral mucosa is thrown into many longitudinal folds as you have shown in, as you can see here, there are many longitudinal folds and these form the plications. And then there is submucosa which consists of vascular plexus. Then the longitudinal smooth muscle layer, then the circular smooth muscle layer, then the striated sphincter muscles. So patient is continent as long as intraurethral pressure is more than intravesical pressure. And this I've already told you, this depends on urethral mechanism and the level 2 support. Urethral mechanism involves intrinsic rhabdosphincter urethrae, submucosal venous plexus, urethral smooth muscle, sympathetic activity to maintain urethral tone, and estrogen increases the collagen connective tissue. The extrinsic mechanism consists of external urethral sphincter and the position of bladder, neck, and proximal urethra above the urogenital diaphragm. And level 2 support comes from endopelvic fascia, which forming the, when there is thickening of the endopelvic fascia, it forms the pubocervical ligament anteriorly and the rectovaginal septum posteriorly, and levator ani through arcus tendinous fascia pelvis. So continence is maintained by equal transmission of increase in intra-abdominal pressure to the bladder and the proximal urethra above the diaphragm. So due to the hammock arrangement of the fibers, the urethra is closed during bladder filling. De Lance's theory is there. What is hammock attachment? Urethra is resting on supportive layer of endopelvic fascia and the anterior vaginal wall. It is reinforced by lateral attachment to the arcus tendinous fascia and levator ani. So there is hammock-like arrangement. So I've already told you the continence is maintained by mid-urethra by support of pubourethral ligament and anterior vaginal wall. And during micturition, the descent of bladder, neck, and the posterior uretrovesical angle is increased to 180°. Now, what is urinary incontinence? Whenever there is involuntary loss of urine that is objectively demonstrable and is a social or hygienic problem. There are two types: continuous urinary incontinence or intermittent. Continuous may be total or partial. Total means every time the patient is having incontinence. Partial means patient is having incontinence sometimes and she is able to pass on urine itself also. Then intermittent is can be stress incontinence, urge incontinence mixed when both stress and urge incontinence is present. Then reflex incontinence, overflow incontinence, nocturnal anuresis, functional, perivaginal. Then total and partial. Total incontinence is there whenever there is fistula, like vesicovaginal fistula or uretrovaginal fistula bilateral, or partial when unilateral uterovaginal fistula or small valvular or very high VVF. In total incontinence, micturition desire is absent, but in partial one, it is present but less than normal. Bladder distension is absent in total, and in partial, it may be distended. So basically, total urinary incontinence is in cases of fistulas. And if there is uretrovaginal fistula, then that should be bilateral for total incontinence. Then intermittent incontinence, urine passes intermittently and patient is dry in between. So there is involuntary loss of urine, like in stress incontinence when intravesical pressure exceeds intraurethral pressure due to increase in intra-abdominal pressure by stress. Then urge incontinence is associated with strong desire to void due to detrusor instability. Patient has a desire to void, and before he goes to the washroom, there is leakage of urine. Then reflex, due to abnormal reflex activity in the spinal cord due to brain tumor or spinal cord injury, it is associated with strong desire to void. Now the stress urinary incontinence, mainly these three are main: stress urinary incontinence, urge incontinence, and the mixed one. Stress urinary incontinence is leaking of urine when patient coughs, laughs, or sneezes. Leak also happens when a woman walks, runs, or exercises. Urgency urinary incontinence is a sudden strong urge to urinate that is hard to stop. Women with this type of incontinence may leak urine on the way to the bathroom. Then mixed incontinence contains symptoms of both stress and urge urinary incontinence. Then involuntary loss of urine can be due to, one is overflow incontinence. When the intravesical pressure is exceeds the intraurethral pressure due to excessive bladder distension. When there is obstruction to the outflow, obstruction is there, whether bladder stone or urethral stone. So there is bladder distension and intravesical pressure is very much and it exceeds the intraurethral pressure. Nocturnal aneurysm occurs during sleep, for example, in cases of spina bifida, small bladder capacity, psychosomatic, and in cases of children. Functional due to immobility or cognitive impairment. Then comes the mixed. What other symptoms can occur with urinary incontinence? Urgency, having a strong urge to urinate. Frequency, patient is more often urinating than what is usual. Then nocturia, waking from sleep to urinate. Dysuria, painful micturition. Nocturnal aneurysm, leaking urine while sleeping. What are the various causes of urinary incontinence? There can be urinary tract infection. So whenever patient complains with urinary incontinence, one has to rule out urinary tract infections and it can be treated with antibiotics. Then diuretics, medications, caffeine, alcohol. Then pelvic floor disorders. These disorders can be caused by weakening of the muscles and the tissues of the pelvic floor, or in cases of pelvic organ prolapse, or in cases of sometimes constipation. Long-term constipation can lead on to urinary incontinence, especially in older women. Then neuromuscular problems. When the nerve signals from the brain to the bladder and urethra are disrupted, the muscles then control these organs can malfunction, allowing the urine to leak. Then anatomical problems, the outlet of the bladder into the urethra is blocked by bladder stone or other growths. So how to diagnose that the patient is having urinary incontinence? First is the history. History is very important. Whenever a patient complains of urinary incontinence, one should take the history. First, the medical history. What symptoms, details about the incontinence to rule out whether she's passing urine during laughing, coughing, walking, running, or she is having, you have to take the history about the and about the frequency. About all the details, any associated complaint, any other abnormality associated with this, to rule out various causes. If she has having prolapse, so all you have to rule out in history. So history taking is very important in whether she is having total incontinence or partial incontinence. So you will be able to tell whether she may be having fistula, and you will ask the patient to maintain a bladder diary for a few days. She should record her fluid input, output, whenever she goes for to pass the urine, what activity she is doing. Then comes the physical examination. So you have to do the pelvic examination and even the general physical examination, neurological examination to see any uh, abnormality, and pelvic examination to rule out prolapse and to look for other anatomical problems. A cuff test may be done during the examination. During a cuff, you are asked to the patient to cuff and bear down with full bladder and see if the urine leaks. This is to rule out stress incontinence. A pad test may be done in which a patient wears a pad which is already pre-weighed pad, and then she is asked to um, walk for 30 minutes and then do some exercise for 15 minutes, and then you again weigh the pad. And if there is a difference of more than 1 gram, this means there is significant loss of urine. Sometimes imaging tests and bladder function tests are also done, that we will deal with these tests in detail in the next class.
Students, please leave the class and mark your attendance.